everyone, I'm Malcolm from A1 Australia PTE, IELTS and NATI coaching. We are Australia's #1 coaching institute, having helped more than 25,000 students to clear their PT, NATI and IELTS tests. Every week we'll be releasing videos with the most important questions which are expected to come in the real exam. And today's video is for the March prediction file for Read Aloud. Most of you would know, and many of you would not know, that Read Aloud is one of the most important tasks in the test. Since it is the first task in the exam, many people, maybe because of pressure or due to panic, make mistakes in Read Aloud. It contributes around 18 to 22 points in reading and speaking both your scores. You'll get about 5 to 6 questions in the test. As the name states, you will have a passage on your screen and you need to read aloud the passage in a natural way. There are 3 very important C's in this task. One is confidence in the voice, second is the clarity in your pronunciation, and third is the consistency while you speak. You should not speak very slow, you should not speak very fast. There is a myth that if you speak very fast and read aloud, you'll get a very good score. That is not always true. Another very important thing which plays a vital part in your score is the pitch of your voice. Pitch means the tone in which you speak. Some people have a very feminine pitch, some people have a very masculine pitch. So the pitch should be neutral. Also the tone should be monotonous. You should not stress too much on the words as well. For example, you should not speak like this. Hello, my name is Malcolm. I'm taking PTE. This is not a very good demonstration of how we should speak in the real exam. Rather than that, we should try to speak with a steady and a confident voice, something like this, especially if you're a non-native speaker. It will really help you if you speak something like this. Hello, my name is Malcolm. I'm taking PT to improve my English. I hope my test goes well. Thank you. See, all the words were very clear. It was not very fast. It was not very slow. I myself trained close to 30,000 students in the last many years. And believe me, if you speak like this in your read aloud, there's a very high chance that your clarity will improve and the software will understand all the syllables, all the consonants while you're speaking. In today's video, we have tried to select most important questions which are expected to come in March and read aloud, and our expert tutors have also recorded their own voice for these sample answers so that you can listen to those and definitely they will improve. If you like our video, subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to share it and let us know in the comment section if you want to make us other such videos. We are here to help you out. I'm Malcolm from A1 Australia PT, IELTS and NATI coaching. See you soon.
While blue is one of the most popular colors, it is one of the least appetizing. Food researchers say that when humans searched for food, they learned to avoid toxic or spoiled objects, which were often blue, black, or purple. When food dyed blue is served to study subjects, they lose appetite. When countries assess their annual carbon emissions, they count up their cars and power stations, but bushfires are not included, presumably because they are deemed to be events beyond human control. In Australia, Victoria alone sees several 100,000 hectares burn each year in both, and more recently, the figure has been over 1 million hectares. Major breeding areas and breeding islands are shown as dark green areas or darts. Open darts show no breeding records on islands and are also used for offshore sightings that are from ships or boats. Other areas where species are not meant to be seen are pale green, with pale green hatching where records are usually sparse. Moods may also have an effect on how information is processed by influencing the extent to which judges rely on pre existing internal information or focus on new external information. Positive moods promote more holistic and top down processing style, while negative moods recruit more stimulus driven and bottom up processing. Legal writing is usually less discursive than writing in other humanities subjects, and precision is more important than variety. Sentence structure should not be too complex. It is usually unnecessary to make extensive use of adjectives or adverbs, and consistency of terms is often required. Botanic gardens are scientific and cultural institutions established to collect, study, exchange, and display plants for research and for the education and enjoyment of the public. There are major botanic gardens in each capital city. Zoological parks and aquariums are primarily engaged in the breeding, preservation, and display of native and exotic fauna in captivity. Introvert or those of us with introverted tendencies tends to recharge by spending time alone. They lose energy from being around people for long periods of time, particularly large crowds. Extroverts, on the other hand, gain energy from other people. Extroverts find their energy is sapped when they spend too much time alone. They recharge by being social. The semiconductor industry has been able to improve the performance of electronic systems for more than 4 decades by making even smaller devices. However, this approach will soon encounter both scientific and technical limits, which is why the industry is exploring a number of alternative device technologies. Trade unions originated in Europe during the Industrial Revolution. Because of the machinery that had become commonplace, skilled labor became less in demand, so employers had nearly all of the bargaining power. Employers mistreated the workers and paid them too little for the work they did. Trade unions were organized that would help in the improvement of working conditions. The brain is divided into two hemispheres called the left and the right hemispheres. Each hemisphere provides a different set of functions, behaviors, and controls. The right hemisphere is often called the creative side of the brain, while the left hemisphere is the logical or analytic side of the brain. The right hemisphere controls the left side of the body, and the left hemisphere controls the right side. The border itself between Mexico and the United States is fraught with a mix of urban and desert terrain and spans over 1,900 miles. Both the uninhabited areas of the border and urban areas are where the most drug trafficking and illegal crossings take place. Crime is prevalent in urban cities like El Paso, Texas, and San Diego, California. It's not that human activities didn't impact wildlife at all, of course. Heavily hunted species like white-tailed deer, gray squirrels, and raccoons were photographed somewhat less often in hunted areas. Coyotes showed up more often in hunted areas. While most species didn't avoid hiking trails, the predators actually preferred them. This study tracked about 1,000 adults in the United States and they ranged in age from 34 to 93 and they started the study by asking how much stress have you experienced in the last year. They also asked how much time have you spent helping out friends, neighbors, people in your community. And then they used public records for the next 5 years to find out who died. The uniquely scented flavor of vanilla is second only to chocolate in popularity on the world's palate. It's also the second most expensive spice after saffron. But highly labor intensive cultivation methods and the plant's temperamental lifestyle and propagation mean production on a global scale is struggling to keep up with the increasing demand for the product. In classes, your teachers will talk about topics that you are studying. The information that they provide will be important to know when you take tests. You must be able to take good written notes from what your teacher says. It isn't rare for private equity houses to hire graduates fresh out of business schools, but 9 times out of 10, the students who nab these jobs are the ones who had private equity experience before even starting their MBA program. This book is no ordinary book and should not be read through from beginning to end. It contains many different adventures, and the path you take will depend on the choices you make along the way. The success or failure of your mission will hinge on the decisions you make, so think carefully before choosing. As to the Industrial Revolution, one cannot dispute today the fact that it has succeeded in inaugurating in a number of countries a level of mass prosperity which was undreamt of in the days preceding the Industrial Revolution. But on the immediate impacts of Industrial Revolution, there were substantial divergences among writers. Public demand for education has remained strong, reflecting the importance of education as a means of social progress. Aware of the added value of education to the world of work, the government continues to innovate and update the education system in order to produce a qualified and competent workforce. Australians speak English, of course, but for many tourists and even some locals, Australian English has only tenuous links with the mother tongue. Our speech is peppered with words and phrases whose arcane meanings are understood only by the native speaker. It is these colorful colloquialisms that Australian slang is yet to truly explain. Hundreds of millions of American people eat fast food every day without giving it much thought, unaware of the subtle and not so subtle ramifications of their purchases. They just grasp a hamburger and unwrap it and toss the wrap into the bin. The whole experience is transitory and soon forgotten. A unique characteristic of online shopping environments is that they allow vendors to create retail interfaces with highly interactive features. One desirable form of interactivity from a consumer perspective is the implementation of sophisticated tools to assist shoppers in their purchase decisions by customizing the electronic shopping environment to their individual preferences. Weakness in electronics, auto, and gas station sales tracked down overall retail sales last month. But excluding those three categories, retailers enjoyed healthy increases across the board according to government figures released Wednesday. Moreover, December sales numbers were also revised higher. The provision of accurate and authoritative statistical information strengthens our society. It provides a basis for decisions to be made on public policies such as determining electoral boundaries and where to locate schools and hospitals. It allows businesses to know their market, grow their business, and improve their marketing strategies by targeting their activities appropriately. Global warming is defined as an increase in the average temperature of the Earth's atmosphere. This trend began in the middle of the century and is one of the major environmental concerns of scientists and government officials worldwide. The changes in temperature result mostly from the effects of increased concentrations of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Humans need to use energy in order to exist, so it is unsurprising that the way people have been producing energy is largely responsible for current environmental problems. Pollution comes in many forms, but those that are most concerning because of their impact on health result from the combustion of fuels in power stations and cars. Every morning, no matter how late he had been up, my father rose at 5:30, went to his study, wrote for a couple of hours, made us all breakfast, read the paper with my mother, and then went back to work for the rest of the morning. Many years passed before I realized that he did this for a living. The speaker is a marine biologist who became interested in the strandlopers, an ancient people who lived on the coastline because of their connection to the sea. Their way of life intrigued him. As a child, he had spent a lot of time by the sea, exploring and collecting things, so he began to study them and discovered some interesting information about their way of life, how they hunted, what tools they used, and so on. Domestication is an evolutionary rather than a political development. They were more likely to survive and prosper in an alliance with humans than on their own. Humans provided the animals with food and protection, in exchange for which the animals provided the humans their milk and eggs, and yes, their flesh. Tesla's theoretical work formed the basis of modern alternating current electric car systems. Thomas Edison promised him almost $1 million in today's money to undertake motor and generator improvement. However, when Tesla, the ethical serb, asked about the money, Edison's reported reply was, "Tesla, you don't understand our American humor." The pair became arch rivals. Lincoln's apparently radical change of mind about his war powers to emancipate slaves was caused by the escalating scope of the war, which convinced him that any measure to weaken the Confederacy and strengthen the Union war effort was justifiable as a military necessity. There are perhaps three ways of looking at furniture. Some people see it as purely functional and useful and don't bother themselves with aesthetics. Others see it as essential to civilized living and concern themselves with design and how the furniture will look in a room. In other words, function combined with aesthetics, and yet others see furniture as a form of art. Akimbo, this must be one of the odder looking words in the language and puzzles us in part because it doesn't seem to have any relatives. What's more, it is now virtually a fossil word until recently almost invariable found in arms akimbo, a posture in which a person stands with his hands on hips and elbows sharply bent outward, one signaling impatience or hostility. Modern buildings have to achieve certain performance requirements, at least to satisfy those of building codes to provide a safe, healthy, and comfortable environment. However, these conditioned environments demand resources in energy and materials which are both limited in supply to build and operate. The situation is similar to a pregnant woman that has twin babies in her belly, says Avi Loeb of the Harvard Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics. He's proposing the idea in a paper that's been accepted for publication in the Astrophysical Journal Letters. Pluto lost its official status when the International Astronomical Union downsized the solar system from 9 to 8 planets. Although there had been passionate debate at the General Assembly meeting in Prague about the definition of a planet and whether Pluto met the specifications, the audience greeted the decision to exclude it with applause. The core of the problem was the immense disparity between the country's productive capacity and the ability of people to consume. Great innovations in productive techniques during and after the war raised the output of industry beyond the purchasing capacity of US farmers and wage earners. The elephant is the largest living land mammal. During evolution, its skeleton has greatly altered from the usual mammal, designed for two main reasons. One is to cope with the great weight of huge grinding cheek teeth and elongated tusk, making the skull particularly massive. The other is to support the enormous bulk of such a huge body. A young man from a small provincial town, a man without independent wealth, without powerful family connections, and without a university education, moves to London in the 1580s and becomes a remarkable playwright of all time. How is an achievement of magnitude made? How does Shakespeare become Shakespeare? Although it hails from a remote region of the western Himalayas, this plant now looks entirely at home on the banks of English rivers and colonized river banks and damp woodlands. In the Himalayas, the plant is held in check by various pests, but take these away, it grows and reproduces unhindered. Now it is spreading across Europe, New Zealand, Canada, and the US.